All right, welcome back everybody. My name is Dustin, and in the last video we started the asset display, and I left you guys with a challenge, and we're going to go over that in a minute. However, we did have a couple pull requests put in since that video, and it was one of them by Ronan here, or 333 FPS, was to use the FMT lib instead of using STD format, because on Linux there's some issues using STD format, so we're using the format lib now, or the FMT lib. So make sure that you use VC package and get the FMT library and install the FMT library. We're going to need that. And then there was also this one memory leak that I didn't notice, that Ronan noticed as well, right here. So if you check this here, before we were just deleting the void pointer, but the pointer didn't know the size that it had to delete. So this fix was put in to deal with that memory leak. Okay, so that's good. So thanks to Ronan for that. We got those in. And now today we're going to go over those challenges that we were talking about in the last video. So right here, we made this in the last video, where we have our textures, and if we just quickly run the scene and stop our scene, our assets will be there. So we made this, and I wanted you guys to make the open context for these here to be able to delete it. See, right, please delete this, and to rename it. Now the rename works because we did that in the last video. However, we want to be able to actually have their own functions. And then today we're also going to go over scenes in the scene manager and start working on that as well. And we want to actually be able to delete these from the asset manager. Okay, so let's do that right now. So let's go into our displays, and that's in the editor, source, editor, displays, and let's go into our asset display, and let's make a new function here, and we'll say void open asset context, and that's just going to take in the asset name that we're currently working on, or currently selected, sorry. Cool. And we'll just create this. And it's going to be pretty straightforward. So let's just go to where we're renaming it right here. Let's just grab all this stuff here. Cut that out and go open asset context. And that's going to take in the asset editor. Cool. Go back in here and just paste that in for now. All right, so now that we have that here, it's going to be a little bit different when it comes to the delete function. So if it's delete, so if we're doing rename, cool. But if we're choosing delete, we're going to have to do a couple other things here, because we're going to have the scene and we're going to have the asset manager. They're two different things. So you have your scene manager and your asset manager. So we basically want to do this stuff here. So let's just take this, copy this, and paste it inside of our delete. Okay. And we can just delete all this part here. And we're going to want to make a new function in the asset manager. So we're going to say if not asset manager, and we're going to call this delete asset. And that's going to take in the S asset name. And it's also going to take in the selected type. So it knows which map it has to remove it from. Okay. So let's go make that now. So we'll just copy this. We actually copy the whole thing here. Copy all of this just so we remember. Go to our asset manager. It's probably faster just to click right on asset manager. Right here. So asset manager and a core, include core, resources, asset manager. Same with the source. Cool. So asset manager, and we can just do this down at the bottom. Right before or right after check asset, we can just say bool delete asset, and that's going to take in the const std string reference s asset name and the asset type. Copy that, and we can copy this, go to here, paste that in. Let's get our and we can actually just copy all of this here. Cool. Because everything's going to be basically the same. Now we need to remove whatever this asset name is from the respective map or asset type, right? And to do that, we can just use the std erase if. So we can just say return std erase if, and we send in our map. Now we need to have a predicate, and we can say capture const auto reference pair. And then we can say return pair dot first is equal to s asset name. Cool. And then we want to just say is greater than 0, because std erase if returns the number of elements that were erased from the map. Okay, so if it's greater than 0, that means we erased it correct. And we want to do the same thing to all of them. So we can just copy this and just change them accordingly. And then that's going to be just changed. All we have to do now is change the map. So which map is this? This is map fonts. Take this, sound effects and music. Cool. Else just return false. Okay. All right, so that should work for us. Let's go back to the asset display, and we can say if it doesn't erase, we can say Scion error failed to delete asset. Asset name. Cool. And that's really it. Now, eventually we're going to want to have it so if we're going to delete an asset, we want to have a warning pop up and say, hey, this could be referenced in certain places, all these things before you delete an asset. But right now, we just want to make sure that we can delete the asset and rename it if necessary. That's it. That's all I wanted to do for this challenge. Pretty straightforward. So let's run it and make sure that it works. All right, so we have our assets. Let's actually run our scene real fast so we can get some textures. And cool. So I just want to see if I can delete it. Bam, deleted. Perfect. So let's rename. Let's just say ready. Cool. Change, and I'm going to delete ready. Boom, ready is gone. Awesome, that works. So eventually we're going to want to have it so, like, see this pixel font. This is an engine font. So this is a default font. I want to make it so you can't delete it. See that there? So we just deleted that. That's a good thing, actually. What type of font? Cool. Somehow that got to here. Oh, that's funny. You guys probably caught that too. Good thing we actually did that, because I wouldn't have caught that till later. None of these are returned. So what's actually happening is if it's not textures, it would have went through all of these. It would have went to try to delete every single one. So it would have been fall through because there's no break or return. So we can't have that. So what had happened is it deleted this one. It deleted the font. It actually did because we're at 0. And then it just kept going down, kept doing it, and it would do the check. And then it got to this assert here, which is great. I'm glad that we put that there. So let's stop this and add these returns in. You guys may have already caught that, but now we have it. Cool. Now that shouldn't happen again. Let's actually run it again just to make sure. I want to delete that font, but that's an engine font. So there needs to be some type of flag to prevent that from happening. And we'll add that later. It's not too important right now, but I will make sure that we add that in later on. So anything that comes with the engine, defaulted in the engine, we don't want to be able to delete. So let's just go to that. That should already be there. Yeah. So right now, if I delete it, cool. So this, I already had a breakpoint here, so that's fine. So this is what we added in before, or this was the new fix to deal with the data, because previously we were just deleting the void pointer. We didn't know the size, and now we're deleting the array that was allocated 96. It's always going to be 96, so that's great. And we can actually make this into a context for somewhere. Cool. So yeah, we delete that, so we don't have a font anymore, but that was an engine font. And we don't want to do that. So eventually, anything that's engine related, we won't let you delete it. You'll be able to select it and use it, but the delete, it'll just be ignored. It won't even show up in the open context. Okay, cool. So let's stop that. All right. And we can close this. We don't need that. And if we go down here, not an asset manager, but an asset display, there was another challenge that I wanted you guys to try where we would change the scale of the asset tile size. However, that's not too important at the moment. So I'm going to skip that for now. And we can move over to the scene objects and scene management because that's higher priority. There are going to be many tweaks that we can add later on. And the tile side, that's a tweak. It's not necessary. We don't need it, but it's a tweak that we can add later on. Feel free to try it for yourself. And if you did try it already, let me know in the comments below. All right. Also, before we continue, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. The channel is actually starting to pick up pretty well, and we're doing pretty good. All right, let's start getting into scenes. And first thing I'm going to want to do here now is in my editor, create a new folder in editor here, new, add folder, and it's just going to be scene. Then in the scene folder, we need to create the scene object because there's no reason to have a scene manager if we don't have a scene object. Okay, so let's do that now. Add new file, scene object.h. And yep, we want to add that. And we're going to do our pragma once. And we can say namespace, Scion editor. And we can say class scene object. So we're going to have our scene object class, and we're going to have some private, and we're going to have some public. All right. So what are we going to have? What is a scene going to need? So in our case, the scene is going to need to have two registries, two separate registries. One of the registries will be used while we are building the scene. This will be used in the tile map editor, and we'll be placing tiles. And we'll control the objects, game objects that we create for the scene. And the other one will be used in the scene display, will be the runtime registry. Okay, so let's get both of those right now. Let's include, I think if we include core, actually let's do it this way. Core, ECS. If we include entity.h, I think we can get the registry and the entity from there, if needed. So we can say Scion core ECS, and then we can say registry, and we're going to have the M registry. That's just going to be the main registry for the scene. And then we're going to have the M runtime registry. Cool. We're also going to need the scene name. So each scene is going to have its own name. So std string, and that's going to be ms scene name, or you can just say name. And we're also going to have the canvas. So we're going to say canvas, canvas. Cool. And I don't remember where we defined canvas before, so let's take a look for this. And we can see, so canvas, editor utilities. Cool. So we'll include the editor utilities to get the canvas struct, and we may change that later on, but so we go include editor utilities, editor utilities. Cool. That'll give us our canvas. So let's create our constructor, and that's just going to be scene object, and it's going to take in a const std string reference scene name. And we need a scene name. And we're all going to have a destructor, but that'll just be default. And we're going to have a couple functions here. We're going to have one to copy the scene to the runtime. So you'll copy all of these entities that while we're building the scene in the tile map editor and our object editor to the runtime. Now, we're not going to need this right now because this was what we're going to use to when we're actually in the scene display. When you hit the play button, that'll be our runtime registry. So it won't be affecting any of the actual tiles, but we're not going to need that right now because right now we're just loading everything from Lua, but eventually we'll be loading it in the editor itself. But we're going to have the function anyway, so void, and it'll just be copy scene to runtime. And we're also going to have another one just to clear the runtime. So clear runtime scene. Sure. Let's make a couple getters to get the canvas. So that'll just be inline canvas reference get canvas return and canvas, and then inline const std string reference get name return ms cname inline. Now we want to send both registries because they may be used somewhere else. Scion core ECS registry reference get registry. Whoops. Return m registry. And then the runtime registry. Get runtime registry. Cool. And that's really it that we need for the scene at the moment. I was going to add the camera to the scene. However, I changed my design ideas are changing as we go, right? I'm making different changes because I actually have an engine that's further ahead and I'm going off of that. And as I go and make new videos, I find that I didn't like certain ways that I implemented stuff. So that's why I make changes along the way, and it's actually helping out a lot. It's kind of like my own QA, because when I first made the engine, like I've actually made games with this engine. I didn't have anyone testing it. It was just me working on it. So it's like, okay, let's get something to work and then we'll move on from there. And I never end up going back to it because it's working for the moment and I just tried to figure out something else. But now as I remake the engine doing the videos, I see things I don't like, because as you grow as a programmer and you start going over your old code, you're going to change it. Like, we'll come back to this later on and I'll dislike some things and I'll want to make it better. But anyway, that's fine. We'll move on from there. So let's actually just create these, and I'm going to create the .cpp file first. So scene object, and we'll just do it right here as well. Add new file, scene object .cpp. And we do want to add this, and I want to include scene object .h namespace Scion editor. Cool. And let's go to our scene object here, and we'll just see if we can make these. Awesome. Looks like they were made successfully, and they were. Great. And we're not going to do really much here for now. We're just going to do like scene name is equal to scene name. Cool. We can add the registries in there as well if we want. We can go m registry. No. M runtime registry. And then m canvas. Now these are all just going to, the canvas is just going to use the default value. Like we could change that if we like, but it doesn't matter. Like when we first create the scene, it'll start with the default value, but this is going to be variable. You're going to be able to change the size of this, okay? And the copy scene to runtime, we don't care about that right now because we're not actually making tiles or objects yet. And the clear runtime scene, that's fine. We can leave that as well. All right, so now that we have our scene object started, we can create our scene manager, or the concept of the scene manager. So let's do that as well. So the scene manager, we're only ever going to need one. So let's make that now. Add new file, scene manager .h. Yep. Pragma once. Namespace Scion editor. And we're going to have our class scene manager. Cool. Some private, public. Cool. So our scene manager is going to be a singleton class because we're not going to ever need more than one scene manager. So we'll do the same thing that we've done with our other singleton classes that we have created for our other manager classes, which end up being singletons. And we'll do that as well. So in order to do that, we're going to want to have another private section. Well, I just want to clean it like that. And this one will be, this is where we'll put our constructor. That's going to be default. And we're also going to want to have our destructor here. And then we're going to have the copy constructor. So scene manager, const scene manager reference. That's going to be delete. We don't want to make this copyable, sorry. And also the assignment operator. So it would be scene manager reference operator equals const scene manager reference also is equal to delete. Okay. And then that means we're going to have to create a getter. So that's a public getter function where we say static scene manager reference get instance. Cool. All right. And we can make the .cpp file. So let's go here, scene, add new file, scene manager.cpp, add. And then we're going to include scene manager.h, do our namespace. Cool. Come back here and we can create our get instance function. All right. So while we're here, we might as well do our get instance, and that's pretty straightforward. So we just create a static scene manager and we'll just say instance. And then just return the instance. Cool. And because this is static, it'll only ever create it one time. It'll always just return the instance for us. All right. And since we're already here, we can do our define. So we can go define scene manager. And that's a function is Scion editor scene manager get instance. Awesome. So now we're going to want to include a map, because we're going to have a map of scenes, and then we're going to include memory, because each scene is going to be a shared pointer. Cool. And let's start with that. And I think, do we have to include string? I'll include string anyway. Oops. Cool. All right. So let's add in a couple variables here. So that's going to be std map. And it's going to be std string. And we're going to have a std shared pointer of Scion editor scene object. Now it doesn't know what this is, so we're going to have to do a forward declaration, and we can do that here. Class scene object. So we have our scene object here, and it's a shared pointer. And that's just going to be our map of scenes. Cool. And then std string, and it's going to be our ms current scene. So the current scene that we're looking at right now, that we have access to right now. Okay. So our get instance, and just like our asset manager, we're going to want to make it so we can add scenes and get scenes, stuff like that. Okay. So what I want to do is create a function bool add scene. Cool. Const std string. I can type string scene. You can say s scene name. That's how I should be doing things. Cool. And then we'll have another one to get the scene. So that will be a std shared pointer Scion editor scene object get scene, and you would get scene by name const std string reference s scene name. And then we have to get current scene. So that's std shared pointer scion editor scene object get current scene. We don't have to send anything in there because this should already be set. And if not, it'll return null pointer. And then we can have the vector to get the scene name. So std string or std vector std string get scene names. We have to include vector. Include vector. So get scene names. Then we're going to have two inline functions as well. They're going to be inline void set current scene. That's going to be const std string reference s scene name. And that's just m s current scene is equal to s scene name. Now this will be set when we switch out scenes. So when you pull and drag a new scene into the editor, it will set that scene. Okay. Then we'll say get current scene name. Get current scene name. Const return ms current scene. All right, so now we can create all these. Create. All right, so let's go define all of these. So the add scene is pretty straightforward. We just want to say if mmap scenes dot contains the scene name. We're just going to return false. And then say scion error. So that means we're going to need our logger. Include logger, logger. Cool. Scion error. Failed to add new scene object. Already exists. Send in the scene name. Cool. Else we can in place. So we can go mmap scenes dot in place scene name std move std make shared scion editor scene object, and that takes in the s scene name. Now this should be s scene name as well. Now I believe this does return, so this returns the pair, an std pair, but here we'll just say true. And we go up here, we have to make sure we include our scene object. So include scene object.h. Cool. All right, there we go. So now get scene is pretty straightforward. We want to get an iterator, so auto scene iter is equal to mmap scenes dot find s scene name. I don't know what that's doing. And then if scene iter is equal to mmap scenes dot end, we want to have an error here. Scion error failed to get scene object. Does not exist. And we just want to return null pointer here. Else we want to return scene iter second. That needs to be a return. Cool. Okay, so get current scene is basically the same. So let's copy all this. However, we need to change this a little bit. So we go if ms current scene is empty. Just return null pointer right away. Or we check to see if we have it and then return it. Pretty straightforward. And this one we've done before to get the scene names. So why don't you pause the video right now and see if you can figure out how we get the scene names. The scenes are the keys, so how would we get keys? Pause it and try that now. Okay, getting the scene names is pretty straightforward. We've done this. Okay, so all we need to do is get our sign utilities that we created. Include sign utilities, sign utilities. Go back down here, and we just want to return scion util get keys, and then we just have to send in our map. That's it. That's all we have to do. This could be const here. Let's change this. All right, and that is it right now for our scene manager. Okay, so we will be adding more stuff to this later, but this is all we're gonna need right now. So let's go into the application and actually add in some new scenes. Just some default scenes that we could use for now, just for testing. Okay, and if we go to here, application.cpp, and we're going to have to clean a lot of this stuff up, but I don't care for the moment. So let's go include, where is that? Editor, scene manager. Okay, and then anywhere in here should be fine. We'll just do it at the end. So right here, we're going to say scene manager dot add scene, and we're going to say default scene. It should automatically add that scene for us. Let's actually add a couple scenes here, and then we'll say new default scene, or new scene. Yeah, default scene, new scene. Cool. And then let's go scene manager dot set current scene to default scene. Cool. So we're adding these scenes, but we haven't done anything with our assets yet. So let's go into our asset display and actually do our scenes now. So where is that? Asset display, let's include our scene manager. So include, wow, I don't even know what I was pressing there. Include editor, scene manager. And anywhere where we're having the scene, where we're checking for scene, we can make a change here. Except for this part. So right here, so selected type is scene. And what are we doing here? Do rename asset. We don't actually have that capability in the scene manager yet, so ignore that. We'll get to that. Actually, that could be a challenge for you. Add this to the scene manager, being able to change the name of the scene. And we'll talk about this at the end. Same with check rename. I don't care about that right now. Don't care about that right now. I care about drawing it right here. So our asset names can be asset names is equal to scene manager dot get scene names. Cool. And that should add our names in. We should be able to see them now and start it. Cool. So if we go to our assets, change this to scenes. Cool. We have two scenes. Perfect. Default scene and our new scene. Can't really change the name yet. Well, you can, but it won't do anything. It won't actually change. Cool. All right. So now I want to be able to, so say we put this down here, I want to be able to grab the scene and drag it in here and it changed the scene. Do you know what I mean? That's what I want it to do. Okay. So let's actually do that right now. So let's go to our tile map editor and add that in as a target. Okay. So let's close this and let's go to our tile map editor. Where is that? That's in displays, tile map editor, or tile map display, sorry. And let's go in here and right after we do our image, where's our image? Right here. Right after our image here, let's actually add in our drop target. So we could say accept scene drop target, right? And we can say if I am GUI begin drag drop target, we can go in here and I can say const I am GUI payload pointer, and we can say payload is equal to I am GUI accept drag drop payload, and this is going to be our drop scene source. So we're going to need our editor utilities for that. So in here we have utilities, editor utilities, I believe that's what we called it. Drop scene source. Yep. Cool. All right. So now we want to check to see if it is, so this payload is a pointer. So I want to see if the payload is correct. So I want to say if payload, so if we have the payload, first let's just do a log. So scion log, and that's going to be before, and we're just going to say scene manager. So we need to add our scene manager in. And it's going to be get current scene name. So let's add our scene manager in here. Include editor scene manager. Go back down here. And then we're going to go scene manager set current scene std string reference, not reference, sorry, std string, and this is a const char. So the payload, we want to get the payload data, and so we need to get it as a const char pointer of the payload. So we're casting it and we're casting the data. Okay. And then we want to say after to make sure that it changed. After. And then inside of here, I want to say I am GUI and drag drop target. Cool. Now this should work because we'll be sending the drop scene, okay? And we can even put a breakpoint here just to make sure. Let's run it. Cool. So right now, like the scenes and stuff don't really matter yet, but they will eventually. So we have our scenes, and currently we are a default scene, okay? So if I drag this down here, and I drag the default scene in, well, right now, it's coming in. It is a drop scene source. So we're going to be before, and then after, it's going to be the same thing. So right here, we're going to have to check to see if it's the same scene. Don't bother changing it. Okay. So if we go to our logs, see before default, after default scene. Now let's change this here. Let's actually go back and remove that breakpoint. I just want to see the logs and drag this in. Bloop. Check our logs. See, after is new scene, before is default scene. That's exactly what we want. So the drag drop is working for our scenes. Okay, so here, drag. You see how it's highlighting in yellow? That means it's seeing it as a drop source. Perfect. All right, so we got that working. Eventually, we're going to have to change a bit more than just the name of the scene, but that's okay. But this is good for now. So we can get out of this and close this. Now, there's some other things I want to do here as well with our scene manager. Now that we have the current scene names and everything, current scene, we want to be actually running that in our display. So we're running the current scene. We have to make some changes to our scene display. So let's go to that now. And scene display.cpp. In our load scene, when we load, we're going to want to be getting the current scene and getting the runtime registry from that scene. Okay. Like you see how we have this registry here, and that is the registry for the scene display. Well, we don't want that anymore. The registries are all going to be based off of the scene, except for the main registry. Each scene will control its own registry, okay? What we can do is go to where this is declared and completely remove this. Let's get rid of this totally. And when we go back into scene display.cpp, that should be all our errors here. These should all be errored out eventually once the cache catches up. And we're going to want to get our scene manager. So let's add our scene manager in here. So include, not 3 include editor, scene manager. And everywhere where we have a registry, where we're trying to get the registry or use the registry, we need to change that. Okay, so what we need to do is do the runtime registry. So eventually we'll be calling the copy. So the load scene will be calling the copy scene to runtime. We won't worry about that right now because we're still not actually creating anything in the editor yet. So, but for now, we can just say auto p current scene is equal to scene manager dot get current scene. Okay, then right here, the script system, we need to add the script system in. So we say we need the registry. So we need auto reference p current scene, or auto runtime registry. Runtime registry is equal to p current scene get. No, that was right. So right now, it's not telling us anything because it doesn't know what a scene is. It knows it's a scene object because we have that forward declare, but we don't actually know what the scene object is, so we need to include that as well. Scene object. Okay. So now that we know that what the scene object is, we can actually get the runtime registry. So get runtime registry. Cool. Eventually that should work. Yes. So now that we have our runtime registry, we can take this runtime registry here and we can say add context, because right now it'll have none. So add context, runtime registry dot add to context, and it's going to be a shared pointer of a scripting system. We can say std make shared, and that's going to be a scripting system. Yes, cool. And this one is not a reference. Cool. And we need to do the same thing here. We're saying get context for Lua. Well, we need to add to context to get the Lua. So here, so let's copy all of this. Here, change this here. std make shared. Make shared soul state. Not a reference, but it is a pointer. And this here, take our runtime registry, change this. Whoops, just want the runtime registry. Just pass that in. Cool. And on load scene, we want to do the same thing. So we have this get registry clear. Let's actually change that here. Like, so we have our registry, right? and we're asking the get registry to call clear. Let's just make a function inside of the registry class that does the clear for us. And we'll just say clear registry, okay? So let's go to the registry, and that would be in core ECS registry.h. And we can just do that right here. We can copy this line, and this could just be void clear registry, mp registry clear. Get rid of the return. That should work. Cool. All right, we can go back into our scene display, and we're gonna have to copy this because we're gonna need the runtime registry. Go back into our unload scene, get rid of that. Now that we have a runtime registry, we can say runtime registry dot clear registry. And then we're going to want to reset the context. So it doesn't look like we're adding much to the context here. Probably, where are we getting all that stuff? Cameras coming from the context. Yeah, so this all has this registry, and that registry was a reference, so we're getting this from other stuff. So we're gonna need to add all these in. Physics systems, animation system, all this stuff needs to be added in for us so we can get it from the scene registry itself, okay? So let's start doing that slowly. Up here, let's just get this from this. So by the time it gets to unload, it should already have the Lua. So that should work fine. So let's go back up to our load scene. And before we even do Lua, we got a couple things that we want to add in. Okay. I'm going to want to just go down here like this. We're going to need to do the camera. And we can do that by going runtime registry dot add to context std shared pointer of a camera 2D Scion rendering camera 2D. And that's just a std make shared. You know what? And up here, this is a bit much. Let's take this and do a using namespace Scion rendering. So we have our camera 2D, make shared, camera 2D. And we're going to need to have the size for the camera because now it's going to be based on the scene, okay? So what I want to do here is actually get the canvas from the scene. So I want to go auto. This can be const auto reference canvas is equal to p current scene get canvas, right? And then we can send in the width and height. So canvas dot width, canvas dot height. Cool. So there's our camera. Now we have to do the physics world and the contact listener. We're gonna have to add those in. So auto p physics world is equal to runtime registry add to context std shared pointer, or actually a physics world. I believe we have physics world. Scion physics world, and that is std make shared b2 world. That takes in a b2 vec2 of 0.f and 9.8f. Eventually we're gonna not want to, that's gonna be settable. You may not want 9.8 as your gravity. Cool. So we have our physics world, and then we need our contact listener. So let's just copy the whole thing here, paste, change this to contact listener, p contact listener, physics world contact listener, contact. Oh, we're probably gonna have to include that. So up here, do we have physics? Right here. So include physics slash contact listener. Slide on down. Where are we doing that? Right here, contact listener. This is the Scion physics contact listener. Copy this. Shared contact listener. And we can get rid of this. Oh, this needs to be STD shared pointer. Sorry, guys. Cool. So we have our contact listener, we have our physics world. Now we need to set the contact listener. So if p physics world, set contact listener, p contact listener dot get, because that takes a pointer to a b2 contact listener. Cool. So now we need to add the script system, which we already added. So let's bring this down here. Make our systems. Add necessary systems. So there's our script system. We need our animation system, and we need the physics system as well. So we can go runtime registry, add to context, std shared pointer, and this is going to be the animation system, and that's just std make shared animation system, and that I believe that takes in something. Does that take in the registry? Let's just send in the runtime. Actually, hold on. Animation system, it does take in a registry right now, currently. So let's send that in. The runtime registry. Cool. So there's our animation system. Let's do the physics system. Physics, cool. And I believe that's all we need for now. Cool. So there's our systems, we have our Lua, and we're doing our register bindings for our Lua and functions here. We're loading our main script. Cool. And that should all be in the runtime registry now. So now down here in our actual render scene, we're going to, actually in our unload, we're going to have to remove some context here as well. So we have our clear registry, so we're going to have another one where we remove context from the registry. So in the runtime registry, let's go back to registry.h here. And we have our add to context, we have our get context. Well, let's do another one where it's just bool remove context. So remove context. And that's going to also be a type name, t context, like that. Cool. And we can just copy this, go down to get context, where this is done. Should be in the same area. Paste this in. Take our registry, put into remove. Copy this. And this is just context. Instead of get, it's just erase. Cool, that's it. So this will help us remove, or you can say erase context if you like. So let's go back into our scene display. And we're going to want to remove all that stuff from our context. So we're going to say runtime registry dot remove context. And that's going to be the std shared pointer of the camera 2D. That's one. Then we're going to want to remove the soul state. Then we're going to want to remove the physics world. Because we don't need these That's Scion physics. If we're not actually running the scene. So we can just get rid of them as while the scene's not running. And just reload them every time we reload the scene. The contact listener. The animation system. And the physics system. Cool. And I think we got everything there. Now down into render scene. So we're no longer going to be sending in this registry. So we need to actually get the runtime registry the same way. Okay. We don't want to do any of this rendering if we don't have a scene. So we want to try to get the scene here. So we're always going to have a frame buffer and the frame buffer width, and these things can change, but we may not have a scene. So we don't want to run these parts without a scene. Okay. So all this is we all got this from the main registry. So that's fine. It will always exist. So down here, we'll want to get our current scene. So we can go auto p current scene is equal to scene manager dot get current scene. Right? So here, if p current scene and mb play scene, then do this. Else do not do any drawing. And if we're in here, now we want to get the runtime registry. Okay? And we could probably just do that in here. So p current scene get runtime registry. And then there's get registry. Cool. And we can completely remove that here. I think we're almost done. Anything else? Yes. So we're updating the camera. Well, we're doing a few different updates here. We're going to have to make some changes. So if we're not playing the scene, just return. We don't care. Else, we need to get the actual scene. So p current scene is equal to scene manager dot get current scene. And also, if not p current scene, we also can just leave. We don't need to update anything. Else, now we want to get the runtime registry. So auto reference runtime registry is equal to p current scene, and that is get runtime registry. Cool. Now we have our runtime registry. We have to make some changes here. So the camera is in the runtime registry. Everything's basically in the runtime registry now. So we can make those changes here. Script systems in the runtime registry. Physics world will be in the runtime registry. All this stuff. That goes there. That goes there. Cool. I honestly think that should work for us. So basically now everything is based on the scene. So if we don't have a scene loaded, then it won't run at all. So if we go back into our application.cpp, we don't have a scene loaded, right? So right now we're setting a current scene. So if I go like this, comment that out, we won't actually have a current scene set. So it will be null pointer every time it's asked until we set the scene. Now we're not changing anything right now because everything is loaded from Lua, like our map, everything is loaded from Lua, so it doesn't matter. But the whole point here is to get the scene started, so when we actually start creating scenes, we already have everything in place to copy it over and do that. And we have a fail, and that's fine. So right here, scripting system, no appropriate default constructor available. Let's see what our scripting system constructor looks like anyway. So that's in our core systems, scripting system. And of course, it takes in a registry. So what I'm going to want to do is send the runtime registry in there. I must have forgot to do that. So let's go to scene display. And that's where we're creating our script system. That would be in load scene right here. Yeah, we didn't send anything into our constructor, so we need to send the runtime registry in. That should run. Actually, our scene display Yeah, we can change this as well. That's not necessary anymore. It will run, but it's not necessary anymore. And if we try to run our scene, it shouldn't work. Bang, we got a crash, and that's fine. Let's see why. And we go to call stack, and we'll fix anything. So it's trying to do the camera right here in the load scene. So P current scene was empty. So that's a problem here. So whenever I load scene, we don't want this to happen. So we're missing something here. So that's an easier fix. We can actually just copy this. And right before we hit our play button, that's in draw. So we have our image button here to load the scene. We can actually add in another check here. We can get our current scene and just do the check here before we even try to load the scene, right? Or we can do the check inside of that. It's up to you. Actually, that's what I'll do. And I'll just return. And you'll wonder why it didn't load. For right here, so we're getting our scene. If not P current scene, just return. Because then nothing else is set here. Like we don't set that the scene is loaded or anything like that. Cool, so let's stop. And let's try this again. Build again. Okay, great. So then we go start. It's not doing anything. It doesn't stop because we have nothing loaded. Then if we go to our assets, bring this down here, go to our scenes, and just go to our tilemap editor and just drag this in. Default scene is now loaded, right? So if I go to scene, start, bang, it works for us. Now the concept of the scene is working per se. Doesn't seem like it's working. So yeah, my update's not working. Do I have any errors? No errors. Cool. This is what the whole point of this is to find out what the bugs are. So let's go to retry. So invalid key. What's it doing here? Call stack. Get context. Soul state. So I must have already removed this state. Call stack. Unload scene. Yeah. So I'm trying to reset this, but I've already removed it. So let's get rid of that here. And let's just do this here. We probably don't even have to do this. We don't have to reset the Lua state because we're completely deleting it right here. We're removing it from the context and then just re-adding it. So we can actually just get rid of this totally. Cool. And why weren't we updating? Let's see. So so update, if not play scene, return. Let's try this again. Cool. So it shouldn't load. And then we load it in. Load in our scene. Go back to the scene. Load it. Let's see if all our textures, everything's loading. Back here. So let's see. Does it even stop in here? Yeah. So P scene. So somehow get current scene here is null pointer. Cool. All right, let's see why. So it gets our instance. And current scene is not empty. So it has it, returns second. It's not null pointer. Yeah, it's not null pointer there. If current scene, leave. That's funny. You guys definitely caught that one. That's funny. Okay, so if not current scene. Did I do that anywhere else? Nope, looks like we're good. You know what? Let's get rid of that breakpoint. It should work. All right, so play doesn't work because our scene's not loaded. Go to our assets, change to our scenes. Bring this down here. Go to our tile map editor, drag in new scene, go to scene, play, enter, and it's not drawing anything. That's fine. We want to figure out why. So the camera, we have the camera's updating, script system's updating. Everything's updating. Interesting. So it's probably something that I missed in when I'm rendering. Render scene. Let's put a breakpoint in there. Render scene right here. Render system. So render scene. So that should go in. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's because so we're making changes, right? And I have my render system here, but inside of here, it's trying to use a different camera. It's trying to use the other cameras. And we were supposed to change that before, but I never did. So let's actually do that now. So in our render system update, this is using a registry. So we don't want this. We want to change this to take in a registry, and the registry has the camera inside of it there, right? So we have our update here. I want to take in a registry reference for the update. We can remove it from here, remove the whole reference from here. We don't need it in our render system. I even put that up as a challenge, but I never got to it because I forgot. But we want to do that, and so we could share the render system amongst other places. We just send in the registry that we want to draw, right? So let's go back to our systems, core, systems, render system. We already did the .h. So here, systems, render system.cpp. We can get rid of this here. We can also take that out of there. Let's paste this in here, sorry. Paste that in here. We can actually just take this. Instead of being null pointer here, just make it there. Like that. Remove this. It's not necessary. Cool. Change this from to this. Registry. View. That's correct. Oh no, that is get registry. Dot get registry. Sorry, that was correct. Cool. There's that. There's one for our render system, and it's no longer going to take in a registry, so we can actually follow this. And everywhere where this is declared or used, we want to remove. So in application, we're putting it into our, this is our, going to our main registry. We don't want to send in the registry anymore. It's not going to be used. So we can do that with the render UI system as well. So let's change that and do the same thing. And the render shape system, I want to do the same. Cool. So let's go to render UI system.h and change that. We're going to take away this dependency here. Take it away here. Now this one's already taking in a registry, but let's change it to use the Scion core Scion core ECS registry reference registry. So slightly change it. UI system.cpp. Make these changes here. Get rid of that. Get rid of this. There's that. This will take in this. And this registry.get registry. Cool. And one more, that would be the shape system. Render shape system. Let's change this. Get rid of this. Take this from there. Paste that in there. Go to the .cpp file and remove. So we may have some errors from this, so we'll go through and fix all those errors. Cool. And wherever we're doing, let's try to build this real fast and fix any errors that pop up. So we'll build this. All right, good. Not too many errors. There's just these three, and they're all in sign display, which is great. So this does not no longer take that. So we're going to want to send in our runtime registry. I believe we're getting that. Nope, we're doing this here. So let's actually take this up here, put this here, auto reference runtime registry, not this registry, but this. And cool. I think that's everything. Now this could be const, but that's okay. And let's run it. All right. So the play scene doesn't work like it was. Put this here. Get our scenes up. Put our tile map editor. Load our new scene. Go to scene. Let's run the scene. Play and run. Awesome. There we go. So now we have the concept of a scene manager, adding and loading scenes, different scenes. Now we still can't really, we're still really not running the scene. This is actually still from Lua, like everything's loaded in Lua, right? So if we do this, it's still the scene. And you'll be, so eventually we'll have a scene hierarchy over here. We'll be able to create tiles, and then we'll be able to add game objects. Like this player could be a game object that we add in. And when we play, it runs that scene, this particular scene that's loaded. This is the scene that we have loaded in Lua. All it's doing right now is loading the Lua scripts that we were already doing. But yeah, that's what we got for now. All right, so small challenge, and it's a pretty straightforward challenge. So that's it for the scenes for this video. We're going to be adding more as we go. So that's moving on to scenes and slowly getting rid of the registry stuff. So every scene has its own registry rather than just a global registry besides the main registry, okay? The little challenge, it's pretty straightforward, is in our asset display right here. So asset display, we have all these areas where we have the asset type for the scene. What I want you to do is go through and try to delete the scene. So we have the scene here. You basically want to do the same thing in the scene manager that we did in the asset manager. And the same is for rename and anywhere else that we're using it, right? So right here, so this is check has asset. This one would be check has scene. Okay, so that's what I want you guys to do as well. And we want to do the same idea. So change name asset, change scene, right? Change asset name. change scene name, stuff like that. So that's your challenge for this round, is go through our scene manager and add all that functionality in. Okay, and in the next video we're actually going to go back, starting because we've gotten a bit further now. We have more stuff that we can use. We're actually going to start working on the tile map editor itself. We're going to be adding in starting the tools that will allow us to actually place tiles. Okay, so there's still lots to go, still lots to do, but that's it for now. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. All right, that's it. Take it easy.